I had to walk out of church today over comments about Charlie Kirk. I'm on the verge of tears sitting in this parking lot because I'm having such a complex with my faith. Because I genuinely don't understand how Christians are pushing this man as though hate didn't come out of his mouth and heart on a consistent basis. And I'm genuinely sitting here like, if this is the God that we serve, if this is the reflection of the God we serve, do I want to be a part of it? I'm truly having a conflict with my faith because the leaders that we're supposed to be following are guiding us in this way to feel empathy and sympathy and like that this person was this great Christian and that the message that his wife gave was, it started off with like praising God. And I'm like, did we miss the chapter of hate that he endorsed, encouraged, and pushed? I don't know where to go from here. To spew hate and hide yourself behind a Bible, to me, is not something I want to be a part of. And it's not the faith I want to be a part of. So what do? I got up out of church and walked out. And I'm at a battle within myself sitting here as like, to what do? I don't want him to be a reflection of what I believe. And what do you do when your leaders and your pastor is saying that is the reflection? To me, I feel like I'm smart. I feel like I've worked hard to get where I get, and to push a man who thought that I didn't have the thinking capacity to get to where I am, that I stole a white person's spot. Like, to think that that's the okay thought, that me as a black person can't function in this world and be just as great as the next, that I don't deserve where I am. Is that what God thinks of me? Is that what this faith thinks of me? I don't know.
Well, if you saw what I just saw, this woman has been so conditioned by media narratives that she's literally willing to walk out of church and literally question her own faith because her pastor said something positive about Charlie Kirk. And when you ask her for evidence, the evidence she gives is a footage that was clipped out of context that has been spread around to frame Charlie Kirk as being a racist. I know the clip she just referred to where he's talking about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson and a few other notable black people who openly came out and said that the only reason why they got those jobs was because of DEI. And he simply said, look, this is a problem. And that if these people who, when they go toe to toe with other people, don't have the brain power to stand the competition, that, it's a bad thing. And then that clip was put out of context to frame him as being racist and hating black women. And she, who, of course, she claims to be educated and hardworking, couldn't even do her own research to figure out that she had been lied to. And she's literally questioning her Christian faith because of a lie that mainstream media had sold her. So we're going to break down this problem one by one. So here's why I think the mainstream media creates people who are allergic to facts. Number one, Mainstream media creates emotional triggers without facts. When you listen to her breakdown on the reason why she felt the way she felt, she couldn't produce the facts. She only regurgitated something that had been curated and sold to her by mainstream media and left-leaning creators. And so it's always about using these trigger words like racist, Nazi, and they put these things up front even when they're speaking about something that is so benign as a speech about law and order. They would always slip in these little phrases like authoritarian to kind of trigger that emotional reaction in people, to let them remember, hey, remember who we told you this guy is? Yeah, he's still that guy. Even when Charlie Kirk had, the report was going out that Charlie Kirk had been shot, the people on MSNBC couldn't help themselves. They had to put in those words like that he was a lightning rod, he was a misogynist, he was they brought out all these trigger words to let people know that you shouldn't feel any sympathy or empathy for this person because here's who we've told you he is. And our friend over here has bought that that message, and her faith and her eternal salvation is hanging in the balance because she believes something the mainstream media sold her. Point number 2, the educational system primes people to reject ideas. Our schools have stopped teaching critical thinking, and that has created a whole generation of people who reject ideas that they are not comfortable with. They don't go deep into studying and researching why these ideas are valid and why their ideas may not be valid. And you know what? Even in my life, I've had the pushback of people telling me or asking me, why do I believe what I believe about the Bible? And I've had to go back for myself to do a lot of critical research to ask myself, why do I believe the Bible? I've done it for over 20 years. And you know what? The more I got pushback and the more I was forced to go back to research my position on things like evolution and all the other things that have been thrown at Christianity to try to discredit it, my faith in God and my faith in the scriptures have become stronger. But when you have a whole generation that is allergic to simply having some self-introspection and asking, is this thing that I believe actually true? And going back to do their own research and even daring to go over to research the other side, you don't have a civilization anymore, because now you simply have activists who refuse to hear anything that is consistent with the other side's ideas. Last night, I attended a vigil for Charlie Kirk in my province, and it was a beautiful thing to behold. After we finished with a prayer and with a few speeches, had by a few of us who were there, my friend and I walked back, and then we ran into a couple of people who were sitting outside a building waiting for an AA meeting. And my friend decided that he wanted to have a word with them. These were clearly liberals, and he walked up to them and was having small talk with them. They were comfortable with the small talk about the weather until he began to talk about Charlie Kirk. And once he mentioned that we had just been at a vigil for Charlie, the gentleman stood up. He snuffed out his cigarette, dusted off his pants, and shook my friend's hand and said okay that he had to go. And then his friend, who was a lady, followed suit the moment he mentioned Charlie Kirk. And I turned over to him and said, look, this is clearly something that they've heard on the mainstream media. And once they hear that trigger word, oh, this is another, fascist that's coming over to talk to me, and they just get up and leave. This is what used to happen internally for Charlie Kirk until he began to confront them in the campuses. And he would say, look, hey, give me the facts of what you believe. And the people who came in there who thought that they knew enough to challenge him found out that their belief systems were grossly based on nothing. So you have a lot of people out there who can't have a decent argument because they can't defend their position. And now mainstream media and the educational system is training them on how to simply react physically by getting up and walking away. Number 3, conditioning overrides faith and reason. Now, when you get to the point where you begin to question your faith simply because you've been fed so much from social media and the mainstream media and talking heads everywhere, then you've crossed a dangerous line. When I look at the woman talk, the question I ask myself is, when last did she crack open her Bible? When last did she go for a Christian conference where she was taught the virtues of Christianity? When last did she actually do her own personal research on the beliefs that she was being sold on mainstream media, or the things she heard her college professor tell her, and try to compare it with what the Bible says? As far as she's concerned, the Bible is an optional talking point when the points in the Bible suit you. Once the points in the Bible don't suit you, then you begin to question whether you want to serve this God who endorses someone that the mainstream media said was a bad person. Now, as Christians, we're called to test all things and hold fast to what is good, not to run from uncomfortable truths. But we see Christians everywhere doing the opposite. I've told this story about my wife having a conversation with someone in the comment section after they gave a rant about how we're not to support Charlie Kirk because he was a racist. My wife simply said, okay, prove it to me, show me how he's a racist, and she could not. And when she found that she couldn't, she resorted to name calling and insults. Of course, this begins to call into question the kind of Christianity that a lot of people say that they're practicing when you can't even prove a point, and because you can't, you resort to name calling and cussing. Now, I want to ask, have you witnessed this kind of reaction where someone just can't handle hearing a name or a fact that challenges their worldview? Drop your stories in the comments. When we understand this phenomenon, that will be the first step to breaking through it. Now, if you've watched this long, I consider you a super fan. Consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. And if you can, please consider sending us a super thank. It's a feature on YouTube that lets you support us financially when you leave a comment. And if you think you want to connect with us deeper, consider joining our membership so that we can have a deeper connection, have calls and live streams that are unique to you as a member. And I would also love to create unique content that only my members will have access to. So please do consider that. Thank you for watching up to this point. And until next time, God bless you and see you on the next one.